You look at your children, and your heart tightens, doesn't it? That mix of shame and helplessness, as if you had failed at the most important role in life, the role of protector. You think, how am I going to look them in the eyes and say that the father, or the mother, who always provided everything, now has nothing? And deep down, something tells you that you've lost more than money. You've lost your pride. It feels like you've fallen from a pedestal you built with your own hands. But the cruelest part is the silence. That heavy silence at dinner, that look from someone who senses something has changed but doesn't know what. You try to hide it, force a smile, but inside you carry the fear of disappointing the ones you love most. I know. You blame yourself for every wrong choice, every bad investment, every time you trusted a promise too much. You wonder if you could have done things differently, if you wasted time, if you were naive. And now, when you look at your children, you feel you've failed as an example, that instead of keeping them safe, you made them vulnerable. And the shame comes like a ghost, silent but constant. But let's understand what really happens behind this pain. Financial collapse is one of the most destabilizing experiences a person can live through. Studies show that financial ruin activates the same brain areas as the loss of a loved one. Because, in a way, it's a symbolic death of identity, of safety, and of self-esteem. You don't just lose money, you lose your social role, your sense of worth, the image you believed you had before your family. And shame is the emotion that most paralyzes the human being. Guilt still allows for regret and movement, but shame tells you, you are the mistake. It clings to your identity, makes you hide, pull away, and believe you don't deserve understanding. But children don't need perfect parents. They need human parents, willing to be truthful. Because shame destroys dialogue, but truth builds trust. The fear of disappointing comes from the false idea that a child's love depends on your success. But think about it. What teaches more? Hiding your failures or showing how you start over? Failure, when faced with dignity, becomes the greatest emotional legacy a parent can leave. It shows that falling is part of life, but getting back up is a choice. Now look at the damage caused by hiding the truth. First, silence feeds fear. Children sense the tension but don't understand it, and so they create their own stories. Second, emotional isolation. When you shut down, they learn that problems must be faced alone, and repeat that pattern as adults. Third, accumulated guilt turns into illness. The body screams what the mouth won't say: anxiety, insomnia, high blood pressure. And fourth, the lack of financial dialogue perpetuates the cycle of ignorance about money. But when you share with humility, without drama, something shifts. You teach that dignity isn't in the bank account. It's in transparency. You show that love isn't built on appearances, but on trust. And above all, you teach that failing is human, and starting over is noble. Science proves it. Vulnerability is one of the greatest signs of psychological strength. What we need to understand about the process of shame is that shame is the fear of being unworthy of love. Emotionally healthy people are precisely those who allow themselves to be seen, even in their flaws. The more you try to hide, the stronger shame grows. But when you speak, when you share, it begins to lose its power. Ask yourself, what do you want to teach your children? That life is a straight line without stumbles, or that it's possible to rise again from the ashes? Do you want to raise admirers or emotional heirs of courage and truth? Think of how many examples you've already heard. Entrepreneurs who went bankrupt and rose again, parents who lost everything and rebuilt their lives with wisdom. Milton Hershey, before founding his famous chocolate company, failed in his first 2 business attempts. Thomas Edison saw several of his ventures collapse before turning failure into invention. And Colonel Sanders, the creator of KFC, had his retirement denied and heard more than 1,000 no's before his chicken recipe became an empire. All of them faced public shame but refused to let failure define them. And, in a way, the world inherited their lesson. Falling is not the end. You too can turn this pain into a legacy. Bankruptcy is not a sentence. It's a purification process. It removes the excess, the illusion, the vanity. It puts you face to face with what's essential, what truly matters. And what matters is love, presence, and truth. Maybe this is the moment to sit with your children and say, calmly, "Kids, we've gone through a difficult time. Yes, we've lost things, but we haven't lost what matters most, our ability to start over. Because money comes back, but trust, once lost through silence, is expensive to rebuild. You don't need to share every detail, nor dramatize. Just be human. Say that you're learning, that you've made mistakes, but that you're looking for solutions. That doesn't weaken your authority. It strengthens your example. It shows that maturity isn't about never falling. It's about knowing how to rise with dignity. And if your children are young, this conversation can be even more symbolic. They may not understand numbers, but they understand emotions. They understand tone, presence, and calm. When they see that you're at peace, even in the storm, they learn the value of serenity. Without words, you're teaching them what resilience really means. Now, look at yourself with compassion. You did the best you could with the knowledge you had. No one plans for bankruptcy. But maybe it's teaching you the greatest lesson of your life. That true prosperity doesn't begin in your bank account. It begins in a peaceful mind and heart. It begins when you realize that the value of a father or mother isn't in what they give their children, but in who they become in front of them. Starting over is not something to be ashamed of. Shame is staying trapped in pain when life is inviting you to grow. Failure doesn't define you, it reveals you. It shows you where you were building castles of sand and invites you to place your feet on the solid ground of truth. And if you're hearing this right now, maybe it's because life wants to remind you, you haven't lost everything. You're just starting over from the right place. From a place of awareness, humility, and courage. Shame only has power while it's hidden. But once it's brought into the light, it transforms into wisdom. So take a deep breath. Look into your children's eyes and say, with love, I made mistakes, but I'm still your father. I'm still your mother. I'm still learning. I'm still fighting. And you'll see, they won't judge you. They'll admire you. Because what children need most isn't perfect parents. It's human ones. And prosperity begins right there. When truth matters more than appearances. When love speaks louder than fear. When the courage to start over triumphs over the shame of having fallen. Starting over is courage, not failure. And those who face their own truth with dignity have already taken the first step toward rebuilding everything, inside and out. Like what you saw? Then don't forget to like, comment, share, and of course, subscribe with the bell on so you won't miss any of the upcoming videos. And there's more. Your financial journey doesn't end here. Check out the link below in the first pinned comment and keep moving forward.